All right, welcome back everyone to our water fluoridation investigation. So I wanted to get you guys updated on a recent Freedom of Information Act request that I did to Henrico County, asking them what studies did they rely upon to determine the adverse events of water fluoridation. If you recall, a couple weeks ago, I did a Freedom of Information Act request asking Henrico County what studies they relied upon to determine that it's safe for pregnant women and babies to ingest hydrofluorosilicic acid through the public drinking water, and they responded back by saying that they don't have any studies to determine that it's safe for pregnant women and babies to ingest this contaminant. Okay, so let me go ahead and show you what I sent to Henrico County, and I'll show you what their response is. The more I continue in this investigation, the deeper disturbed I get. I'm actually blown away that so far Henrico County has yet to produce a single document that indicates that they actually did any research before putting this contaminant slash additive slash discharge. They call it a variety of names, but this is a drug. Okay, it's a drug. It's a contaminant. It's a chemical. It's a discharge. It's a hazardous waste byproduct. So the deeper into this I get, the more disturbed I get, because I would have expected by now that Henrico would have done some sort of research on this, like I said, prior to even putting it into the drinking water. And certainly I would have thought that they would have done some research since I started, asking questions more than a year ago. But as it stands now, they cannot produce any documents. What they do say is that they defer to VDH, so Virginia Department of Health. So essentially they're saying, well, as long as Virginia Department of Health recommends this, then we're going to put it in the drinking water, despite it appears that Henrico has never done any research on their own. And it's disturbing because Henrico, like I said, keeps deferring to VDH when the Virginia Administrative Code says that the board, meaning the Virginia Department of Health board, recommends the optimal ion concentration as determined by HHS. And as we've gone over in the past, HHS does not recommend water fluoridation. They have not recommended water fluoridation ever since 2014, when they got sued in 2011. And we all know what Secretary Kennedy's position is on water fluoridation. So I think that this was a clever move done by VDH, because I think that they could see the writing on the wall that this fluoride situation is they've lost the plot. I don't know how else to put it. So by VDH saying that they recommend whatever HHS recommends, it's a clever move, because they know that HHS has stopped recommending water fluoridation since 2014 after they got sued in 2011. Who recommends water fluoridation in the government? That's going to be the Public Health Service. The Public Health Service is made up of a variety of agencies, one being the CDC. Now, the CDC, their thought process of recommending water fluoridation was so babies, pregnant women and babies small children ingest fluoride, so it gets into their teeth while their teeth are developing. But in 1999, they changed their position and said that the benefits of fluoride are topical, and that they no longer recommend that pregnant women and babies ingest hydrofluorosilicic acid. So I think it's important to remind everyone that the purpose of water fluoridation was so pregnant women, babies, and children ingest it. And ever since 1999, possibly earlier, but the document I found was 1999, they stopped recommending it to pregnant women and babies. And as far as I can tell, I don't see that VDH recommends it. In fact, on their website, they say that if you do not want your child's teeth to be disfigured, then children under the age of 8 should not ingest hydrofluorosilicic acid. So anyway, with that being said, let me show you guys what this Freedom of Information Act request says. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so if you recall, on September 19, 2025, I sent a Freedom of Information Act to Henrico and said, please provide me with the studies that Henrico County has relied upon to determine that it's safe for pregnant women and babies to ingest hydrofluorosilicic acid through Henrico County's public drinking water. Henrico County responded back by saying that they don't have any studies, which is extremely disturbing, that they have 0 studies that they've relied upon to determine that it's safe for pregnant women and babies to ingest fluoride through Henrico County's public drinking water. Okay, this is very concerning to me. They have no studies to determine that it's safe. And as far as I can tell, there are no studies that exist indicating that it's safe for pregnant women and babies to ingest hydrofluorosilicic acid through the public drinking water. All right, so let's move on to the more recent FOIA request. So it's to Henrico, and this is going to be from me. And I said, dear team, it has been 7 business days since I've made my request for records. I will need a response by the end of the day. And then I said, here's a reminder of the request. I go on to say, please provide me with the documents that the County of Henrico, Virginia relied upon to determine what the long-term effects, meaning side effects and adverse events, are to ingesting hydrofluorosilicic acid through Henrico, Virginia County's community drinking water. Okay, so essentially what I'm asking here is, what are the side effects and adverse events of ingesting fluoride? Specifically, what are the adverse events and side effects of ingesting hydrofluorosilicic acid in the public water supply? All right, they don't have any records. So this was the response. So the FOIA officer says, in response to your questions, Henrico County follows the guidance from the Virginia Department of Health, the State Board of Health, and the State Health Commissioner. You may wish to contact VDH for information about the benefits of fluoride and related studies. I'm not asking for the benefits of fluoride. I'm asking for the adverse events of fluoride. Okay, you can't have tunnel vision. There's a benefit of preventing people from driving cars, but just because there's a benefit of doing it doesn't mean it's a good idea. If you were to ban people from driving cars, then it would be devastating. There's a benefit to giving somebody a blood pressure medicine, but there's also side effects and adverse events. So we can't just talk about the benefits of something. we have to talk about the adverse events. And again, when you put fluoride in the drinking water, you are taking away informed consent. Informed consent doesn't just mean, putting something on the website that says this is in the drinking water. Informed consent means you cannot coerce someone into this medical treatment. Henrico has a monopoly on the water supply. So when you're putting a drug slash additive slash chemical slash contaminant slash discharge slash waste byproduct, you could put lipstick on a pig and call it whatever you want. This is done in order to treat people. And when you put it into the public drinking water, you are coercing people into ingesting this, and that is a violation of informed consent. If you're not familiar, please read number 1 of the Nuremberg Code. So, again, we're not talking about the benefits of fluoride, okay? It's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting. Henrico will continue to take guidance from VDH. Henrico maintains a license to operate the water treatment facility and use Waterworks chemicals through VDH. The license number is. So, they're saying that this is a chemical, okay? Again, you can call it whatever you want. You can call it a chemical. You can call it an additive. The EPA calls fluoride a contaminant, okay? And they list this as a contaminant that actually causes harm to human health. And I think I need to go over that with you because I was under the assumption that everybody knew about this. But then I started discussing this with people, and apparently they don't know that this is a chemical that's regulated under the EPA. It's regulated under the EPA in the same way that lead and arsenic and cadmium are regulated under the EPA. Okay, so fluoride is put into the exact same box as lead and arsenic and mercury. Okay, so let that sink in. This is a contaminant. And Henrico County is going out of their way to purchase this contaminant and put it into your drinking water, thereby violating the Code of Virginia, which mandates pure water. Okay, so let me continue. They go on to say, much like your request for copies of the studies that Henrico County has relied upon to determine that it's safe for pregnant women and babies to ingest hydrofluorosilicic acid through Henrico County's public drinking water. Henrico County does not maintain documents that determine what the long-term side effects and adverse events are to ingesting hydrofluorosilicic acid. Now, this is a problem that they keep trying to say, well, we don't maintain these records, implying that Virginia Department of Health is the custodian of Henrico's records. That's absurd, okay? So I understand that they keep wanting to defer all responsibility to the Virginia Health Department, but the fact of the matter remains, it's Henrico that's adding the contaminant into the drinking water. So they love to say, what's the new language that they use, this mealy-mouthed language of Henrico County follows the guidance from VDH. Again, if you were actually following the guidance of VDH, then you would not be putting fluoride into the drinking water, because Henrico's guidance says that you should be adding fluoride into the drinking water as determined by HHS, and HHS does not recommend water fluoridation and has not since 2014 after they got sued in 2011. We all know that Secretary Kennedy does not actually support artificial water fluoridation. So this is ridiculous. What happened is Henrico, got I want to be careful with the language that I use. Henrico got caught putting fluoride in the drinking water. And they said that VDH was requiring Henrico to put it in the drinking water. And now after, I put the kibosh to that, they're now saying, well, we follow VDH's guidance. One, VDH never required it, legally anyway. And two, you're not actually following VDH's guidance. Okay, so let's continue. It's so exhausting. So Henrico does not maintain, implying that the records exist, but, somebody else is the custodian of them. But the bottom line is Henrico does not have any documents that determine what the long-term effects, side effects, and adverse events are to ingesting hydrofluorosilicic acid. So the county of Henrico is putting this into your drinking water, feeding this to your pregnant women, feeding this to your children and your babies, and they don't have a single study to determine what the adverse events are of this. That's like a pharmacist dispensing blood pressure medicine. And when you ask the pharmacist, what are the adverse events? He goes, well, I don't know. Absolutely. The pharmacist should know what the adverse events are. He should be able to open up the package insert or go online to the FDA website and figure out what the adverse events are. So the fact that Henrico does not have one single document that they've produced is absolutely egregious. So anyway, again, they just want to defer to VDH. Henrico, it's exhausting. All right, let me move on. It's absolutely exhausting. So this was my response, October 10th, 2025. The affairs of government are not intended to be conducted in an atmosphere of secrecy. This was the subject to my FOIA response. So this was my response to them saying, we don't maintain the records. Henrico is lacking a fundamental misunderstanding of both FOIA and Henrico County's obligation as a local government. I was a little bit stronger in this language because I'm growing tired of this. They think that this is a game, and it's not. They are medicating the public, and they're getting their jollies off of it. Everyone, they're laughing. I spoke last night today's Thursday, Tuesday, and again, they get their jollies off of what they're doing, okay? They're harming babies and pregnant women, and they're laughing at you about it. So I said, thank you for your response. This is to the FOIA officer. Thank you for your response. However, the county's reply does not comply with the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, Virginia Code 2.2-3704, and reflects a fundamental misunderstanding of both FOIA and Henrico County's obligation as a local government operating under the Dillon Rule. There is a clear difference between not maintaining the records versus the records not existing. Not maintaining the records means that the records exist, but Henrico is not the custodian. Which one is it? I go on to say, your statement that Henrico County does not maintain documents that determine what the long-term effects are to ingesting hydrofluorosilicic acid, while simultaneously admitting that the county follows guidance from VDH, Virginia Health Department, effectively acknowledges that the county is implementing a public health policy involving chemical treatment, contaminant, additive, drug of public water without a local record of justification or due diligence. Okay, I will read that again. Them saying that they follow VDH's guidance, that's what they're constantly wanting to say with their mealy mouth language, effectively acknowledges that the county is implementing a public health policy involving chemical treatment, contaminant, additive, drug of public water without any local record of justification or due diligence. It's reckless. Okay, they're essentially practicing medicine without a license. This is a drug, and we're having waterworks operators put this in their water. Okay, so babies are getting exposed to a much higher dosage than, say, somebody who's, goes out of their way to buy distilled water. You have athletes that are drinking an enormous amount of water, so they are getting a higher dosage than anybody else. Nobody operates like this. When a doctor writes a prescription for insulin, let's say, okay, the doctor takes into consideration, is this a man? Is this a woman? What is the age of this person? What is their blood sugar? There's a whole variety of things that they take in consideration, and then they want you to monitor it, okay? So not only are they going to dispense the insulin, but they request that you check your blood sugar each time before taking insulin, so then you are taking the proper dosage, right? It's very important to determine what the proper dosage of a medication is. And not everyone wants to take insulin, right? If you have type 2 diabetes, perhaps, or you're borderline, let's say, perhaps you would rather go a different route and maybe, change your diet, or maybe try some alternative medicine before going down the route of taking a prescription drug. Perhaps people who want to use fluoride would rather consume calcium fluoride. Maybe they would prefer to protect their brain and their teeth and just use fluoride topically, okay? What they're doing is absolutely barbaric. I digress. Furthermore, VDH has expressed okay, so just to recap, so they have no records of justification or due diligence. They haven't done their due diligence before making the decision to put drugs in the water, to have waterworks operators. I wonder what kind of burden that is on the minds of those waterworks operators, knowing that they don't actually have a license to dispense medicine, knowing that this hydrofluorosilicic acid is actually contaminated with heavy metals, knowing that they know if they get some of this on their skin, it will burn a hole through their skin. I've wanted to show you guys what it looks like when these waterworks operators gets damaged, but I realized that YouTube would censor the video. So if you want to see what these waterworks operators injuries look like, go Google hydrofluorosilicic acid waterworks operators, and you will see it peels off their skin. It will eat through the bone. These men know this is dangerous, okay? I've never met a single waterworks operator that is supportive of artificial fluoridation, not one single individual. And when I've asked them, why don't you speak at city council or board of supervisors, they are afraid that they are going to get fired. That's why they don't speak out, is they are afraid, okay? Anyway, furthermore, VDH has expressed dissatisfaction with Henrico's attempts to shift and evade responsibility regarding FOIA requests, as well as water fluoridation in general. What Henrico is doing is an obstruction of justice. If I wanted to know what records that VDH is relying upon, then I would ask VDH. For Henrico to claim that VDH is the custodian of Henrico's records is mendacious. It's idiotic to think that VDH is the custodian of Henrico's records that Henrico's relied upon. I mean, who says this stuff? Who is feeding this FOIA officer this language? If Henrico does not have the records, then Henrico must respond accordingly, citing why Henrico could not produce the records. If you don't have the records, say you don't have the records. Don't, insinuate VDH is the custodian of the records. It's ridiculous. What Henrico cannot do is assert or insinuate that VDH possesses records that Henrico County has relied upon. This is both ludicrous and outrageous. Please tell me why VDH would possess the studies that Henrico County has relied upon to determine that it's safe for pregnant women and babies to ingest hydrofluorosilicic acid through Henrico County's public drinking water. It's ludicrous. But just to prove how ridiculous that notion may be, I FOIA'd VDH, and they were not happy with Henrico wasting their time. Henrico is violating FOIA by playing these childish games to deflect responsibility for the actions of Henrico. I would strongly encourage that Henrico stop trying to obfuscate their legal responsibility regarding these FOIA requests in the future. They think this is a sporting game. They're playing with your lives. Furthermore, I went ahead and did a FOIA request for the documents that the County of Henrico, Virginia relied upon to determine what the long-term effects, side effects, and adverse events are to ingesting hydrofluorosilicic acid through Henrico County's community drinking water, wasting more time, resources, and money. Because I've got to do it at this point, right? If they say, well, VDH is the custodian, then okay, now I got to waste more of VDH's time. And I got to tell you, I'm not going to speak on behalf of VDH, but the impression I got was they were a little ticked off by Henrico. Additionally, in order to deal with any more malfeasance coming out of VDH, I will be doing a FOIA request to VDH for the following. So this is what I did for VDH. I'm requesting access to and copies of any and all records that the Virginia Department of Health maintains as custodian on behalf of or in relation to Henrico County, Virginia, concerning the fluoridation of public drinking water. So I'm asking for everything from VDH, and I've already spoken to VDH. They've already contacted me and said, what the heck is going on here? And said, of course, Virginia Department of Health does not have any records that Henrico has relied upon. It's absolutely ridiculous. Under Virginia's Dillon Rule, a locality can only act when. Okay, so we all know that Henrico does not have the authority to be putting hydrofluorosilicic acid in the drinking water. There was no vote. There's no ordinance. They are putting this into the water secretly. They lied on the annual water quality report by saying that there was no fluoride detected when they know good and well they were putting it into the drinking water. They did not send out a notice to the public when they added it back into the drinking water in 2024. So they are doing this secretly. Ask yourselves, folks, if fluoride is so fabulous, why won't any of the Board of Supervisors or the county manager or the DPU director publicly make a declaration saying how fabulous it is? They know it's not fabulous. So why are they putting it into the drinking water? Are they getting paid money by some fluoride lobbyist somewhere? I mean, what the heck is going on? You have to be a legitimate psychopath to want to go out of your way to put a chemical into the drinking water that harms babies' brains. The power, so this goes to Henrico not having the authority to put this into the drinking water, okay? How does that make you feel, folks, that they're putting this into the drinking water and there was not so much as a vote? Not that that would make it any better, because it's still violating bioethics and it is still violating number 1 of the Nuremberg Code. You do not coerce people into taking a medical treatment. I guarantee you all of these people would have been happy to plunge a needle into everyone's arms during COVID. Because if you think it's okay to put drugs into the drinking water against people's will, then you probably were okay with forcibly holding down people to plunge a needle into their neck, right? Into their thinking about Charlie Kirk, plunging a needle into their arm for a COVID shot. I mean, this is absolutely unimaginable. I tell you what, you know, after World War II, we had the Nuremberg Code. There was a trial for the doctors who experimented on people against their will, right? We have determined that we do not coerce people into medical treatments, okay? And I suppose Henrico either didn't get the memo or, again, they're getting paid off. I digress. The power is expressly granted by, so again, they don't have the authority. The power needs to be expressly granted by statute, necessary or fairly implied, or 3, essential to the declared purpose of the local government. They won't even say what the purpose of adding fluoride is. A county that adds hydrofluorosilicic acid fluoride to the public water supply at public expense is unquestionably taken an action affecting health under the Code of Virginia 15.2-1425. Such an action requires a record of authority and justification, not blind reliance on outside guidance. That's what they want to say. Oh, we rely on VDH's guidance, right? If VDH told you to jump off of a cliff, are you going to, blindly abide by VDH's guidance? You don't follow guidances that violate bioethics. If Henrico County's decision to fluoridate its public water is based on VDH directives or correspondence, then those communications, license, memoranda, or guidance documents are records relied upon within the meaning of FOIA and must be produced, okay? Again, if Henrico County's decision to fluoridate its public water is based on VDH's directives or correspondence, then those communications, licenses, memoranda, or guidance documents are records relied upon within the meaning of FOIA and must be produced. Accordingly, I hereby request that the county produce all correspondence, communications, directives, or policy memorandum from VDH, the State Health Commissioner, or the State Board of Health relating to fluoridation of Henrico County's drinking water from January 1st, 2024 to October 13th, 2025. 2. Produce any internal memoranda, staff reports, or administrative records documenting the county's reliance upon VDH guidance or its decision to maintain fluoridation under Waterworks license. 3. Provide a written certification under 2.2-3704D if the county claims no such records exist, identifying the individual who conducted the search and determine that no records are maintained. I want to know who keeps coming up with his mealy mouth, we don't maintain and we defer to VDH nonsense. If the records do not exist, for my request, copies of the studies that Henrico County has relied upon to determine that it's safe for pregnant women and babies to ingest hydrofluorosilicic acid through Henrico County's public drinking water, then cite the appropriate FOIA code and section. Do not try to brush me off on VDH. To do so again would be wildly inappropriate. Please, provide me all records and emails regarding the following. Please be advised that Henrico County does not maintain the requested records. You may wish to submit your request to VDH, to Virginia Health Department. You can do so by using the following link, as well as the documents of the names of individuals involved in producing said statement. I want to know who came up with this statement. I know it wasn't the FOIA officer. So who sent this to them? Who from VDH sent this to them? I think I know who. If the county fails to produce the requested records or provide a lawful written certification, I will consider this matter a denial of access and will be prepared to pursue a petition for mandamus or injunction in the Henrico County Circuit Court. I will also forward this correspondence to the Virginia Freedom of Information Advisory Council for formal review. Look how ridiculous these people are. Absolutely absurd. This is our county. This is America, people. I mean, the majority of the world knows that it's unethical to put drugs in the public drinking water, but not Henrico, not the city of Richmond, not the majority of waterworks in Virginia. Why is that? Okay? That's going to be something I'm going to be spending a little bit of time on, because as far as I can tell, what's happening is federal money goes to Virginia Department of Health. Virginia Department of Health gives money to Virginia Health Catalyst. And is any money going from Virginia Health Catalyst into the pockets of the Board of Supervisors? Did they get donations from lobbyists? Okay, are they being paid off or bribed? That's what I would like to know, because it doesn't make any sense as to why the Board of Supervisors is doing this. They will not speak on it. I wonder why, right? Why? And why do they continuously try to go out of their way in order to censor me in a covert way, right? So upon information and belief, they're deliberately trying to violate my constitutional right. It's unacceptable. If you are somebody who has any sort of power with these people, then I implore you to do what you can to protect pregnant women and babies. If you're not willing to protect children, what are you doing? Anyway, that's all I have for you today. I've got some more FOIA requests coming. I gotta say, I'm growing very tired of the shenanigans. There's only but so much somebody can take, right? So all what's left at that point, because they refuse to have a conversation about this, right? That's the problem. They refuse to have the conversation. So when you refuse to talk on the subject, then the only thing that's left is to seek relief through the courts, right? That's the only way. And the time will come, from what I'm seeing, the EPA with, in the near future will be banning artificial fluoridation, in which case it's going to open a can of worms on all of the cities and counties that are continuing to fluoridate. When it comes down, and it's gonna, as soon as the EPA bans this, it's gonna go all over the news, and citizens are going to wonder, did Henrico County know that this was harmful, and when did they know? And when citizens find out that they've known for at least a year that this is harmful, and yet they've continued to put it into the drinking water, they've continued to laugh about putting it into the drinking water, they continue to keep this a secret from the people, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good, not by any stretch of the imagination. So I encourage Henrico to get off this ship. This fluoride ship is sinking. Everybody is getting out of it. And that's all I have to say about that.